tonight on a special 90s edition of Evening.
The 90s, though, they're never going to go away.
From the fashion to the tunes.
The music came from a place of angst, a lot of it.
Take a look back at the biggest stories of the decade.
It was an interesting time.
Plus, the Western Washington locations that made it to the big screen.
They know who sat where because there's
little plaques.
There's little plaques.
Hey everybody, Jim Dever in the King 5 studios with a special show celebrating the 1990s. For the next half hour, let's wax nostalgic about that grungy, grainy, growing pains of a decade. What a time it was. It was a decade of progress and innovation.
And it was like the whole town had gotten a new coat of paint.
Of coming together and pulling apart. January 1st, 1990 saw Seattle's first black mayor take office.
The decade kicked off with the election of Norm Rice.
6 years later, we'd elect the first Asian American governor in the continental U.S.
It was a big step forward, and it was an important one.
Sort of being out in the forefront of having people in high power positions that maybe the rest of the country looked at as an anomaly.
But the 90s weren't all joy and jubilation. An arson fire at the Pang warehouse took the lives of 4 Seattle firefighters.
There were just so many layers of tragedy involved in that story.
A tragedy made even worse by the fact that one of the Pang's own family members set the blaze.
Their son then turns out to have been responsible for the arson that caused the fire for them to lose their business.
Of course, movies and music put us in the spotlight.
Baby got ballet.
But it was our leading role in technology that kept us there.
Seattle really significantly changed when Microsoft released Windows 95. The city has never been the same since, for better or for worse.
The mid-90s rise of the self-proclaimed world's largest bookseller, Amazon, would transform Seattle and the world. And give us one more reason to get online any way we could.
When the internet first came out, not everybody had a personal computer or had access to the internet from their home. So a lot of people, they would go to these internet cafes that started popping up. And for a lot of people, including myself, that was our introduction to the internet.
Even we made some history, working with a local tech firm to stream a post-broadcast web show years before YouTube.
A television first. We'll continue Evening Magazine live on your computer.
Connecting Seattle Center.
The 90s nearly gave rise to a vast new Central Park.
So in 1995, the thing that didn't happen is that the Seattle Commons Park was voted down, and the public rejected that idea.
Some far-flung news gripped our attention, like the 1997 death of Princess Diana.
That was one of those stories that had a global impact all the way back to Seattle.
As a journalist, Joyce Taylor covered the funeral in person.
And on the same flight was Gene Anderson and Kathy Gertson. It was a given that we were all going to be traveling to London.
The decade and millennium ended in chaos as a battle in Seattle raged around the WTO meeting of world leaders.
I was just there as an observer. And once the tear gas came out, that's when I decided it was a good time to leave, probably.
Seattle and the Northwest grew up in the 90s, faced with the warning signs and the promise of what was yet to come.
A time when Seattle built on its strengths.
It was an interesting time.
Sure was an interesting time. And it also was a big decade for sports around here. From 1990's Goodwill Games to 1999's final game at the Kingdome, the 90s were a notable decade for Seattle sports. The 91 Huskies shared college football's top spot. And who can forget the Mariners' 95 season, highlighted by Edgar's double to drive home Junior for a ticket to their first American League Championship Series. The 1996 Sonics went all the way to the NBA Finals, and the Seahawks nearly left town for good in '97 until Paul Allen stepped in to buy the team. Some of the 1990s most memorable movies were shot right here in Washington State. Kim met up with a film expert for a stroll down memory lane.
Yeah, no one knows movies better than my buddy Keith from IMDb, so he's gonna take us on a 90s movie tour, and of course, we have to start right here.
This is famously from Sleepless in Seattle.
Tiramisu.
What is tiramisu?
You'll find out.
I do love anyone that comes in here, they know who sat where because there's
little plaques.
There's little plaques.
Yeah.
There's a good reason so much of the film takes place in Seattle restaurants. The director.
Nora Ephron was a huge foodie, and so she realized she had to incorporate Pike Place into this somehow because she loved it so much. Now we're in front of the Coryell Court Apartments, which is the setting for Cameron Crowe's Singles. They all live here in this kind of Melrose Place-like commune. This is like a Seattle hub for the 90s.
This spot on Capitol Hill is one of many living sets in the film, which was shot just before the explosion of grunge and features many of the musicians who became household names.
They're all characters in this film. It's marinated in Seattle.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's really cool, isn't it?
Now we're in front of the Fairmont Olympic, which used to be the Four Seasons back when, in 1994, when Disclosure was shot here.
The movie starring Demi Moore and Michael Douglas showcases everything from fairies to the city's future in tech.
There's actually a whole sequence that's shot up in the rooms up here with a VR headset. The Fairmont has aged much more gracefully than much of this film.
1995's Assassins brought Sylvester Stallone, Antonio Banderas, and Julianne Moore to town.
If you want to watch Seattle in the 90s, watch the first half of Assassins because it's set under the viaduct and it's set in Pioneer Square, and then there's a whole scene on the monorail.
This North Bend gas station was the site of a horrifying abduction in 1993's The Vanishing.
It's where Kiefer Sutherland and Sandra Bullock pull off for an unfortunate event.
Diane!
Sandra! It's funny because you can watch the movie and you can see where the clear cuts had happened on the mountain behind us that are now 31 years of growth that have occurred since then.
Tacoma also went Hollywood for 1992's Hand That Rocks the Cradle and 1999's 10 Things I Hate About You.
Stadium High School is a cool high school, and Heath Ledger is a cool guy.
Coopville posed as a New England town for 1998's Practical Magic, but the house wasn't real. It was just a shell.
The rumor is that Barbra Streisand so loved that house, she was like, how do I buy that house? And they went, sorry, we had to tear it down immediately after we finished filming.
Skagit County is also captured on film in 1993's This Boy's Life.
With Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro and Ellen Barkin, and it's still a stunning movie.
Even though Seattle isn't the filming hub it used to be, it was the right place at the right time in the 1990s.
There's something special, there's something unique about the weather, about the atmosphere, about the people, about the architecture. Seattle was the perfect venue.
Thank you, Kim and Keith. A few TV shows filmed around here also made their mark in the 90s. Northern Exposure used Roslyn, Washington as a stand-in for Sicily, Alaska. That show is now streaming for the first time on Prime Video. Twin Peaks, set in the fictional version of Snoqualmie and North Bend, launched a cultural phenomenon that continues to this day. And King 5's own Bill Nye the Science Guy went global with a show that hooked kids on science for 6 seasons.
Still to come, hear from some of the artists who put the Northwest on the music map. Plus, it's a grunge edition of 5 Star Dive Bar when Evening's Northwest 90s special continues. Local stories make a difference. With the power to enrich lives, strengthen communities, and make us smile. Evening is made possible by Primera Blue Cross. Primera Blue Cross, always in your corner.
They said, go back the other way.
never stop and eat a dick.
Let's eat, man. Let's eat.
My party's on Broadway.
If you don't dip fries in tartar sauce, you're in a Seattleite. You fold them in half, dip, wipe, out. That's it. Mm-hmm. That's good.
I like big butts and I cannot lie.
No.
Okay?
Never take them with you on the road, man.
That was a day out on the town with Sir Mix-a-Lot as we revisited one of his favorite local hangouts, Dick's Drive-In. His 1992 hit, Baby Got Back, spent 5 weeks atop the Billboard music charts. Meanwhile, 90s Seattle was changing the sound of rock. Just look at these sales figures. Nirvana's breakthrough album Nevermind has sold 30 million copies worldwide. Pearl Jam's 16 million. And Soundgarden's Super Unknown, 7 million. How about this? Alice in Chains' Dirt, 5 million. And the Presidents of the United States of America's debut, nearly 4 million copies. But hitting it big can also take a toll. Saint has a look back.
If you're looking for some of the Seattle music scene's biggest impact players of the 90s, you might find them in the 70s. As members of the glam rock tribute band Bowie Rex and his Boogie Army. Here, a Posey, a producer, and a Lazy Susan join forces with the president, Dave Dederer.
It's just a blast to go out and have fun, rock out, play music that you love for people who love it.
She's in my head. It's been 30 years since Dave's band, the Presidents of the United States of America, shot their Lump video in the middle of Elliott Bay, one of 4 singles from a debut album that sold 3 million copies.
I've had hard jobs. I've been a tugboat deckhand, I've been a teacher, I worked at Amazon for almost 10 years, and having a successful pop record is the hardest job I ever had. Because you're working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, until it fizzles out. Being a professional musician is one of those amazing opportunities. It's also, there's an element of be careful what you wish for.
The 90s were a little tumultuous, in my opinion. It was a little much sometimes, yeah. A little too much too fast.
From behind the lens, photographer Charles Peterson captured Seattle's grunge era, where bands forming for the fun of it in the 80s suddenly hit it big in the 90s and then faced relentless new demands. So many of the scene's heroes died so young.
The music came from a place of angst, a lot of it.
The angst doesn't go away.
No, it doesn't go away. No, just because you become famous or you sell a lot of records. Yeah, when you're in the public eye, it makes it that much more difficult too.
Though they remain one of Seattle's most beloved bands, Fastbacks could only watch as friends in other bands were wined and dined by major labels.
You know, 94, 95, 96 goes by. It's like, nobody even ever took us out to dinner. You know, we never even got asked once. It's like, well, about us over here.
An invitation actually did arrive in '96 when Eddie Vedder invited Fastbacks to open for Pearl Jam on a European tour, where they played places like Wembley Stadium.
So that was the coolest thing in the world. It was literally like running away and joining the circus.
But the circus life does take its toll. After a 10-year break from rock and roll, Dave has found his love for music again. He actually plays in 4 bands these days.
Now it's like being a 13-year-old again. Everything I said no to for 10 years, I just said yes to. Yeah, you want to come over and jam? Yeah, I'm into it.
Thank you, Saint. Well, we asked you to send us your favorite photos from the 90s, and you delivered. Here's a great one from Philip Rawls, who used to represent EMI Records in the Northwest. This is him just chilling with Seattle rock gods Queensryche, receiving their first platinum record. More of your picks later on in the show, but right now, Jose brings us a special edition of his series, 5-Star Dive Bar. These are some of the local watering holes that grew the music of the 1990s.
Over the years, I visited many bars where music
is a big part of the entertainment. This time around, I want to highlight the ones that have a connection with the grunge scene from the 90s. As you can see, I'm right off the highway in a place called El Corazon. Now, back in the old day, it was known as Off-Ramp Cafe. On the night of October 22nd, 1990, one band hit the stage for the first time. They would later change their name to Pearl Jam. Okay, Linda's Tavern is a bar and restaurant in Capitol Hill that often is referred to as grunge. Cheers. Nirvana's front man, Kurt, frequented this tavern, and it was also the last place he was seen in public before his death. If places could talk, what would this corner say? The original Crocodile Cafe on 2nd Ave. As the grunge scene exploded, the Croc became the leading venue for local bands. One legendary night was when Nirvana opened for Mudhoney in 1992. Under the fake name Pen Cap Chew, tickets were only $3. Another fun fact about this place, not related to grunge, but deeply to my heart, is this was my very first 5-star dive bar.
Welcome to the Crocodile Back Bar. Hello.
Even though this original location closed, no worries, because the Crocodile moved to a bigger and better spot. So the music will keep playing. We have one final stop for this 5-star dive bar, Grunge Edition. At my favorite spot, Central Saloon, the birthplace of grunge. Melvin's, Soundgarden, and Alice in Chains, just to name a few of many bands that play here in the 90s.
The stage is a discovery platform. The walls speak of all the notes and all the conversations and all the fun people have had over the years.
And there you have it. Now it's time for homework. A little trivia question. Can you guess where this sign came from?
Why, yes, Jose, from the Alice in Chains music video, Voices.
Up next, the 90s fashion that's making a comeback.
I feel very cool.
Welcome back. I'm Jim Dever, and we're traveling back in time to the 90s on this special edition of Evening. We've even got the crazy 90s camera work. Saint hits up one of Tacoma's most fashionable vintage stores to recreate the look of that very grungy decade.
After school at Scorpio Rising, and the kids are digging through the racks for treasures from another time.
The 90s, though, they're never going to go away.
90s nostalgia has never been bigger, especially among a generation that hadn't even been born yet.
I love that it was kind of a mesh of so many different time periods mixed together.
Taking her cues from punk fashion icon Vivienne Westwood, Anella Brown is wearing a 60s plaid pleated skirt with layers, a 90s corset over a BB shirt, and a trip bondage jacket.
And that's my favorite part about fashion, is it really, you get to tell people who you are without having to say anything.
Today I'm wearing an outfit inspired by Kurt Cobain style throughout the 90s.
Isaiah Brooks is wearing Vans, patchy distressed jeans, and a dark fuzzy mohair cardigan over a faded band tee. All topped off with a trucker hat and lots of jewelry.
That it was more so about being casual and comfortable during that time.
I think after the 80s, people really wanted to start wearing sustainable clothing, so they started thrifting.
Here, Isaiah wears a printed long-sleeve BMX-style shirt with cargo pants. And Anella wears a hip-hop R&B style outfit with a Gap bucket hat, an Animaniacs tee, 90s leather jacket, and skater pants. The 90s have never looked better.
I feel very cool.
Thanks, Saint. You know, Scorpio Rising helped find Saint a new look, too. Or maybe that's an old look? It's new again, whatever. They open every day of the week at 11 a.m. And we continue our flashback to the 90s with a look at some of you. These are just a few of the throwback photos you shared with us on Facebook. The hair and clothing are all that in a bag of chips. Thanks so much for joining us. It's been totally tubular taking a look back at the 90s in the Northwest. Remember, anytime you're feeling nostalgic, you can revisit these stories on our website, king5evening.com. See you next time. I'm outie, Scouty. I don't think that's a real thing. Do people say that? I don't think they ever did.